Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video, and my goodness gracious me, I wasn't looking forward to this being the very first video in terms of the new gaff. Speaking of, by the way, if the sound's slightly off or the graphics aren't as crisp, the office is still a work in progress. I know you just see the old cheeky green screen, but it's a bit chaotic right now, as is the potential decision nearly made by the club, so maybe it goes hand in hand that way, but we all know why we're here. We're here to talk about Russell Martin. Do you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Do you know what that clap was? That was 90% of Govin's arse cheeks got ahead in clenching at the sheer thought and prospect of this man wearing brown brogues in the dugout at Ibrox. And I understand the frustration, I understand the worry, I even get the controversy around it. For the most part, there is some that I think is overblown, and we will touch on that later on in today's video, but I am vastly aware that we are in a very unique situation, and a situation we've never found ourselves in before, with possibly making the single most controversial decision in terms of a managerial appointment at this football club we've ever made, and dare I say the most controversial managerial appointment that Scottish football's ever seen since yesterday, when Dundee somehow announced Stephen Presley is their manager. Now, all joking and all that to one side, obviously there's no official confirmation regarding Russell Martin to Rangers just yet. We have had a fab tweet, one of the most credible people online, going to put his name behind Russell Martin being the next Rangers manager, but I think he might have jumped the gun a little bit, as most of the other credible sources out there are confirming that no deal has yet be done. And I think Rangers' official line in the sand is they're still speaking to their candidates and the people they want to speak about. So it's no an official confirmation, but that's not what this series is about. It's actually the managerial search series, where we go ahead and look at the people I believe the club spoke to. We've talked about Ancelotti, who I don't think a lot of people really wanted a couple of weeks ago, but now when you compare him to Martin, I think his stock is rising. You then had Steven Gerrard, who at that point was very controversial in that, but I think the club's decided to go a different way. Now you're getting excuses and reasons elsewhere, and I think that's just a lot of that's cover, obviously, because Gerrard wasn't chosen to go further in the process. That's just what I believe anyway. And now the third person of this series is none other than Russell Martin. If you watch the previous two, especially the last Gerrard video, we talked about there is a third name in there which I was a bit nervous to go ahead and make. I have been dragging my feet a little bit because I know it is going to be so controversial. There was a potential Leicester thing, there was this, so I was just taking it, allowing it to breathe a wee bit, try not to manifest, if I'm being honest with you, but now it's got to the stage where clearly we need to talk about it. So the trilogy may end with the man known as Russell Martin. And I think we find ourselves in a very, very unique situation regarding all this, because it's no the standard, it's no the basic managerial profile or Rangers rumour or anything like that, because there is a lot to meat to these bones and a lot for us to actually discuss, and we will discuss Russell Martin to Rangers. We will discuss his controversial link with the club and the fans' feelings on that one. But you know what else we'll talk about? His actual managerial profile and what he is as a manager, because too many people are focused on him as a player and how he didn't perform up the road. But he's not coming here with a pair of boots, he's coming here with a suit. So we'll look at that pretty fairly as well. But see, before we go down any of those avenues to try and cover all this type of story, can we just start off with something that I don't think a lot of people is actually talking about, right? We're talking about a new board, a new era, a new regime, new chairman, new people in the club, right? It would be very, very easy in their first week to come out here and announce a people pleaser, maybe one that's a fan favourite, maybe do a wee pals act and bring in a formula favourite that could tick a lot of PR boxes. They could have went down every single easy route out there. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, despite the fire at the gates and people foaming at the mouth with frustrations, they are continually evaluating the likelihood of Russell Martin being the Rangers manager. They are ticking all the boxes for what they want. They are kicking every can, and despite the madness and despite the hysteria, they are narrowing in and really paying attention to what Russell Martin could fricking be. You know what I mean? Because this isn't a new thing. It's not just because Fab talked about it. We've been talking about it for 40 weeks. It's been in the papers for months. This Russell Martin to Rangers thing has been lingering around in the background, but every name props up at it because people would rather them than Russell Martin. So he is almost the ugly duckling in terms of this managerial sense, but none of that matters to the board and the people now in charge of our club, who aren't looking to do the easy thing. They're looking to do the right thing, despite needing to maybe potentially go against the wave from the new fan base in terms of the excitement, the joy and the positivity. They're willing to put that down if they believe Russell Martin is the guy. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, despite clear frustrations regarding this, the fact that they've got the balls to go ahead and do that might just be the perfect sign that we finally have the right people in the right positions at this football club. Not to do the easy thing, but to do the right thing. So that's big, and dare I say, strong leadership for off the frickin' park. By God, how long have we needed that? And to be fair, maybe some of that respect and some of that credit should also go to the man that's maybe possibly standing in the lines then. Yes, you're welcome for that. But also standing in the firing line, and that's being Russell Martin as well. Because I don't know if he's got social media or anything like that. Hope to God they follow me, because I'd be cracking jokes left, right and centre at the sheer ridiculousness of this potential appointment. But at the same time, as he knows what's getting said about him, he knows what Rangers fans think. Think back to the Morgan Whittaker situation about a year or two ago. He apologised for being crap at our club and everything. He understands what the perception of him is. And also, we all get any guy stepping into the dugout of Rangers knows that mountain to climb is very, very steep. The expectations, the fan pressures, how quickly you've got to be able to turn things around, how quickly you need to be a success. It's already a really hard job. But Russell Martin could be coming up the road knowing that's even harder because of his previous relationship at the club and the fans' perception of him as a manager as well. So if he's willing to come ahead and tackle that and start climbing that bad boy almost beat before a whistle was blown for the first time in his managerial career, fair play to the lad. And full credit to the titanium-sized plump bags he's got floating about the vegan boxers, because that takes a wee bit of someone willing to step into that situation. So maybe he's got up here that he can be that, and he's willing to fight and scrap for everything. And yeah, maybe, ladies and gentlemen, despite the madness all the way around this, and despite some of my own frustrations, this might be the type of characters we need. But again, the key word is might, ladies and gentlemen, because we've had great people, great links, great CVs, and most of them have came and failed to this football club over the last little while. So maybe the guy that nobody really wants, or maybe 90% of the fan base does they want, will come here and surprise everybody. That would be very nice, because if he comes here and be a success and makes us all look like diddies, that means this Rangers team has won trophies, and that's all at the end of the day any of us care about. So I just wanted to touch on a wee bit of that stuff, but let's go ahead and dive more obviously in to the man himself. And a lot of the controversy does come from his fact of he previously played here, and I think the 2017-18 season when he was signed as a centre back to come here and try and put out, ironically, some fires in the back line and improve what was an inexperienced mad situation at Ibrox. The likes of David Bates, Ross McCrory, they were the type of centre backs that was flying about at that point. Russell Martin came with expectations. Did he reach some? No. But is he the worst player I've ever seen play? As some of the stuff that's said about him and has been said over the last couple of years, is he as bad as a lot of people make out? For me, in my opinion, no, not that. He never succeeded. Yet did he fail? Obviously. But was he the worst player? No, I just think he was bang average, and a very, very bang average mad Rangers team. That's how I feel about him as a player. But again, we're not signing him as a player, so I don't understand why we're spending so much time talking about him. Do you know what I mean? If we announced Henry as a manager, is he bringing these bits with him? Is he playing up front? Whereas, do you know what I mean? If we announce Steven Gerrard, is he playing in midfield? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. There's been truly fantastic football players out there that can't hack it as a manager. Sol Campbell, great player. Wayne Rooney, phenomenal player. Can he manage their way round? Tesco to find their messages, never mind perform and manage a football club. And then you've got guys that's never made it as players going to be one of the greatest managers, the likes of Jose Mourinho. So I don't understand why we're spending so much time going round and round talking about and dissecting his Rangers playing career. It's over. It failed. It didn't work. Let's push it there. In fact, let's take a couple things. Whereas, because one thing we can take from that experience is that experience, because that's what a lot of people want, isn't it? When we talked about Ancelotti, it's experience. We want experience in Scottish football. They need to know what it means. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Russell Martin played here. He knows Scottish football. He gets that, so that has to be a tick. Even the biggest hater will admit that. And talking about expectations and understanding what it meant, Russell Martin, we will have a Rangers manager, if he does come up the road, that is fully aware of how quickly the fans turn, how quickly it can be over, and how quickly the Rangers dream can be killed. Because do you know how he'll know that? Because he came here, experienced it, and he failed. Ladies and gentlemen, his time was cut. He couldn't go ahead and achieve it. He couldn't go ahead and be what he wanted to be at this football club, and the club moved on very quickly from him. So maybe the experience in managing in this league, and obviously the experience of coming here and seeing what it takes to try to make it but fail, and how quickly it can all come crumbling down, might give him a wee bit of advantage. And maybe the short rope that he could have already with the fans, and based on his experience of trying and failing at this club, this might be the manager that walks in and goes, him, and him. I can't rely on you. I was sitting with you in the dressing room. I see what you guys are. I know what this is all about. I know this isn't going to work. And if I tie my future to you, and you, I'm out the door before any of you. So maybe this short fuse that he is going to have, or this short bit of leeway, might actually give a lot of people who are very vocal against him exactly what he wants. And that's to go in there and clean house, because he knows there's people there he can't rely on, because he'll know have much leeway. So I don't know if that is worth mentioning or even worth talking about, but that's all I would take from his player career. That's all that interests me. Everything else, I didn't care where he went after us, what he did before us, what he doesn't bother me. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at him as a manager, because he's coming in a suit, no a pair of shin pads, and that transitions us in to the managerial position. And again, I think I've made it pretty damn clear, I'm not exactly buzzing about this one. I don't think it's the greatest choice out there for us. I don't think he is the greatest manager or what he's shown so far. But again, I always try and bring balance to these videos, right? I try not to go either way. I try not to just pure my opinion, and that's all that matters. But also, I didn't try and pander to everyone, because I know there'll be people screaming, if he's a Rangers manager, you've got to get behind him. Absolutely, and that should never be a question. No matter how vocal anybody is online, when that whistle goes, they will support the team, because the club matters more than anybody. But again, I can't pander and pretend he's no go any problem. So let's go ahead and talk about him as an actual manager then. What he's achieved, what's been his stumbling block, why is he unemployed, why was he sacked, and why this is maybe the most fairest part to be very nervous about him as a manager, because the rest for me is almost irrelevant. But what he's actually done as a manager, I think it's fair to criticise. But before potentially coming up the road to Rangers, Russell Martin has had 3 previous jobs at the top flight of football. MK Dons, where he had a winning percentage of 36%. It's no very good. Swansea, he then went to, that had a winning percentage of 37%. Remember, he joined them when they had just been beat in a playoff final. It should have been a hell of a lot better. The dip that they had, the horrendous defensive record, how far they fell his first season, was absolutely shocking. And that's with having a 30 goal a season striker on the books, by the way, which I see a lot of people saying he's got an eye for talent, he brought in a 30 goal a season striker for Swansea. He didn't sign him. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Steve Cooper a week before he left. That was done before Martin came in. So let's be fair in terms of discussing this. Let's not try to trick people. And the third and final one is obviously Southampton, which is his most recent one, which I think we're all familiar with because of the way he got sacked in the Premier League. But if you're wondering his winning percentage, it was 45%. So in his overall career, he's never had a positive win percentage at any club he's managed, which is absolutely terrifying. And if this is the part of the video you start to get nervous, if this is the time that does become controversial, fair enough, because there's no actually much there to really sink our teeth into, right? He had some good spells, he had some good runs with Swansea. I weirdly know a lot about his time at Swansea because one of my best friends, Stevens, is a Swansea fan. Yeah, I know, a Swansea fan. Ladies and gentlemen, that's like finding a unicorn that can do a backflip on a trampoline, right? It is very rare. So I know a wee bit. I know he done some bad stuff when he first came defensively. He was all over the place. But I know he eventually built a very good goal-scoring squad that could bang in goals left, right and centre. That could beat a team 5-0, then get beat 3-0 the next week. I know he set a Swansea record for 4 consecutive derby wins for the first time in their history. But again, it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Coming in from a team that's just won a playoff final, that signed a 30 goals a year striker, but struggling so much. Why? Because of his play style. Because it never quite meshed. And that followed him in his Southampton time. And I think Southampton is where, again, more of us are familiar. But the biggest worries all come because he did take the step forward in his career. He did finally get to the dance. He took it a step further than he ever could with Swansea. So there was progression, if you want, to be fair. But after getting Southampton to the Premier League, did he adjust? Did he change anything? Nah, it was his way or the highway, and that highway led him to unemployment. And it's that right there, beyond the stats, beyond the blanket quotes, the spot, beyond anything else. It's his inability to change and his stubbornness in terms of what his style of play is that scares me to death when it goes wrong. I mean, one of the Premier League quotes of the season is when they got scurried again and he threw a couple goals in with playing out at the back and it just never worked. He was asked if he was going to change. He went, no, that's his style. That's him. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody wanting a plan A, plan B, plan C type manager that can change on the fly, you're not getting it with Martin. But what you are getting is a philosophy that's built, if it all goes well, to choke the life out the opposition. It's pressing. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's possession. It's aimless possession. And I think that's people just going to Google and seeing 65, 68, 70% possession. It's not really fair on him. A lot of that possession is actually one back high up the park. It's no having everybody back passing the ball around to the goalkeeper. Playing out for the back, aye. But just watch how his team play. They pile forward almost recklessly. It was game to choke the life out the opposition. They're piling the pressure on. It's a ridiculously high line. I remember sitting with Stephen watching games with someone saying, what the hell is going here? This is amazing. I liked it as a neutral because it was like a basketball game. It was frantic. It was chaotic. You would get goals. If you're interested in seeing a high scoring Rangers team, you're going to see it under Russell Martin. If you're nervous about how many goals we concede, you're also going to get that with Russell Martin, because when it doesn't work and when the press fails or when there is a bad pass or it does break down, your entire team is pretty much piled onto them and you've abandoned your 2 centre halves. So again, if he does come up the road, he's going to need to work that, because you will need athletic centre backs that can run, ladies and gentlemen, or it's going to be one ball in behind, one ball in behind, one ball in behind, and our Achilles heel over the last couple of years will just continue to shine and spread to the shin, because that's what kills and haunts Russell Martin's side. It's the one simple ball. If you can break the press, you are in every time, because the fullbacks are bombing forward, everything going forward. It can go wrong, but again, trying to be fair, when it goes right, it's absolutely amazing to watch. You'll see goals, you'll see pumpings, you'll see dominating. And just thinking about it from just that perspective, thinking about a Rangers team no showing respect to the opposition in Scottish football, and I didn't mean that in like an aggressive way. I'm just talking about too many times we sit back with 2 defensive midfielders and we invite them on. Nah, this guy, bang, everybody up front, get your man, 1-on-1, that's your man. If he scores, that's your fault, and that's your fault if he beats you. There is complete accountability in every single player, and every player has a responsibility. So if that boy scores, you know exactly whose fault it is. And again, it is built on going forward. It is built on winning the ball back. And that, for me, could scare the death in a lot of Scottish teams. Or it could play into the hands perfectly to the low block. If they're sitting with everybody back, that means even more people's going forward. And what does it open up? The long ball in behind. It's genuinely a coin flip each and every single game, but that's been Russell Martin's entire career. One week it works perfectly, the other week it's no. The only thing you could say, to be fair, is the clubs he's been at so far, were they really expected to win every week? Not MK Dons. Swansea was a wee bit different because they made a playoff final, but they did lose a wee bits and pieces as well. I know they signed a very good striker, but not really the greatest team. I think they built into a good team. In Southampton, again, were just about getting to the Prem, and he eventually got them there by the name of Sausage Oribo was playing there as well. Maybe you'll bring him well. So again, the only thing you can look at all of that to then Rangers, his style, his philosophy, the way he wants to play might be more suited to Scottish football, because what he'll have is the first time in his entire career the best collection of players that's better than the opposition 99.9% of the season. So that dominating style of play should mesh with Scottish football, because again, it is about outplaying, it is about getting after them. The big calls will be when it comes up against Celtic and they've got their fast wingers and they're able to do all that stuff. But again, at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, he had a very good record of 4 consecutive wins versus Cardiff. He has shown he can win them in the past. But again, it's risk reward. You're getting it with Russell Martin. And it's scary, ladies and gentlemen, where it could really work out in Scottish football. We could finally get to see us scanting teams and battering teams again at Ibrox, turning it back into a fortress where it should be. By the way, we could be taking a step back in terms of Europe, because I'm very interested. I don't know how that style is going to go, if I'm honest. And I can only speak from my experience, right? I'm not a scout, I'm not a coach, I'm not an analytic guy or anything like that. I'm just talking about when I'm sitting on my couch, when I'm watching games. Wasted happened this season, getting battered, playing out for the back, making mistakes, getting battered. And my time watching him at Swansea, where weirdly I've got a lot of time watching these games where sometimes it was great, sometimes it was bad. I seen them 3-2-0 up in the stoppage time. They go beat 4-3. I saw them 4-1 up at one point to go away and throw games. His game management, sometimes his subs. But again, it's one way of playing, one style of playing. It's not the same formation. I say a wee bit 4-3-3, 4-3-3. He sometimes played 3 at the back at Swansea, sometimes 5. He can change it. But again, no matter the formation, no matter the lineup selected, they're all expected to bomb forward. And what I'm really interested in, ladies and gentlemen, if Russell Martin does come up the road and plays his philosophy that's been for day one, is how many in that dressing room is actually fit enough and fast enough to play the style of football he wants. That's what's interesting me, especially the defensive areas. Because again, bomb forward. The space that's left behind is terrifying. Is any of your backline fast enough? Proper? Anybody like that? No. Suter, maybe, ladies and gentlemen, but he's been towing a cart the last year or two. And the fullback positions, scary, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very scary. I mean, the only team person I think it could possibly fit and really, really kick on is, I think this is a perfect mesh for Raskin, which might be the biggest sign that Raskin will be here at the start of next season, because that is a Russell Martin player. The press, they've been able to run all day, up, down. That is Raskin. That there is Russell Martin. But again, it's just risk, reward. And I've probably repeated myself a couple of times, but that's the way I've witnessed. I can't bum up any other way. I can't polish it any other way. There has been times I've watched games and thought, that is absolutely dreadful. What are they doing? And other times I went, this is brilliant actually. He's scoring goals for fun. That's been the Russell Martin experience. And if he comes up here, we thought the Dessers experience was interesting. By God, it could just be even worse. Or it could be the exact thing this club needs. Oh God, it's so hard being a football fan. But that's how I feel regarding the Russell Martin situation, ladies and gentlemen. I think he is a guy that will come in. If he does come up the road, look at that dressing and realise, I can't rely on you, I've got to move on, because I've not got a lot of time, I've not got a lot of leeway, I've not got a lot of good faith here, so I need to get players in that I want, that he will need to bring in to play his style, by the way, and I can't go down with your sinking ship, because I'll be the first one out the door. So I think he will come in, kick arses. I think you might see some familiar faces, because he does sign a lot of players from his previous club. He's done that at every club he's been at, so we'll maybe see a return in Joe Rebo, or maybe somebody else for Southampton, maybe even somebody else for Swansea. Very, very controversial. Could it work? Aye. Could it fail? Spectacularly, yes. But that's everything, legend. We've looked at perfect CVs, perfect players, and it's no worked. This one, that's a risk. Could it? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But if the board's willing to put all that good faith they've got for the takeover on him, I've got to believe they're making the right decisions, because they've no rushed into it. But I would be very interested to know what your thoughts are and opinions down there in the comments section below. Do I believe the club spoke to Russell Martin? Obviously, ladies and gentlemen. Do I think he could be the next Rangers manager? Aye. But should he? You can let me know down in the comments section below. And as always, I've been Siege over 92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best and bye-bye.